Taylor Hall. And his pass is going to be located by Robinson in, and he tucks it just wide of the post. Come outside of the net, and Andersen!
What a save.
Oh, Mr. Andersen, how did he get a piece of that?
Wait till you see what he did with his glove here.
Now here comes Tuck with a step. Tuck comes in. Andersen got the pad to it to keep it out. Malenstein with a move in all alone, and he scores! That Malenstein did his Connor McDavid imitation, and it's 3-1 Buffalo.
Welcome to the Canes Corner podcast, everyone. Hi, I'm Adam Gold. Happy Sunday to you here in the great state of North Carolina. Hurricanes lose 4-1 in Buffalo. 5-game point streak comes to an end, and a much longer streak. They didn't play great against Washington. Maybe it's a 5-game play great streak, too, that comes to an end as they lose in Buffalo 4-1. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sam Meehan and his crew do a great job. Harriet vouches for the Aluminum Company. When you say the Aluminum Company, she howls. She loves them because they were here and she was watching them do the work. So she has firsthand knowledge of just how good the Aluminum Company is. All right, so it didn't go well. For me, the Hurricanes looked like a team that was playing the fourth game of a 4-game road trip as they were flying back and forth across the northern extremities of the U.S. Goes from Boston to Minnesota to Winnipeg to Buffalo for an afternoon game. A team dealing with a flu bug. You know, it kept Jordan Staal out of the game, and you know this, if you get a bunch of guys, a bunch of athletes flying around together, if one guy gets the flu, he ain't the only one that's been dealing with it. He was just the only one that couldn't go in that particular game. And so Jordan Staal, less than 48 hours after being a star in Winnipeg, he was unfortunately unable to play, and you saw how much they missed him. We'll talk about that as well, because they missed him in areas that you wouldn't normally think you missed Jordan Staal. So, you know, Rod didn't like the game. I actually thought it was a little bit better than Rod did. I didn't think Carolina was terrible today. I just thought they were just a little off, not sharp. And there were opportunities for them to keep that game at 2-1. We'll talk about the Beck Malenstein goal. And there were opportunities even at 3-1 to pull that game closer. Just couldn't get to it. And it's going to happen. But ultimately, you know, the effort was there. They just didn't win the game. But they were not better than Buffalo today. You know, you go back to recent losses for the Hurricanes, whether it was the shootout loss in Minnesota, the home loss to Edmonton in this stretch before today where they were 7-1-2. The one was the loss at home to Washington. The 2 overtime losses were the overtime loss to Edmonton, where you got Hall of Famed, and the shootout loss to Minnesota, where you were by far the better team. The other goalie played brilliantly, and you couldn't overcome it. You did get to a shootout, and you got a point. In both games, you got a point. You deserved better. In the game against the Wild the other day, you know, you could argue that they were lucky to get the one, but they were still by a mile the better team. So you like to hear all of those things. But today they were not better than Buffalo. They were not. All right, let me go through a couple of things. And again, gorgeous Sunday. I hope everybody enjoyed the day. Maybe you took the Hurricanes broadcast with you and got a chance to watch it, maybe on your phone, maybe on your laptop as you were just sitting on a porch drinking, whatever, an iced tea, a country time lemonade. Remember that. All right. So 2-1-1 on the road trip. For me, in the first 3 games of this road trip, Boston played great, struggled to score, played great, won the game comfortably. That's the first game of the road trip. Second game, Minnesota played great, way better than the Wild, generated a boatload of chances. Jesper Wallstedt was just dynamite. He had not allowed a 5-on-5 goal in the team had not allowed a 5-on-5 goal in 4 games. They had gone, I think, 10. He had gone 10 periods without allowing a goal, something silly like that. He was coming up back-to-back shutouts, or 7 periods without a goal allowed, not 10. So the Hurricanes found it hard to get through, but ultimately Jackson Blake was a superstar, and he dragged Carolina into overtime, and they had chances to win it. He had chances to win it, didn't. But you got a point. But they were great in the game. And they were great in the game at Winnipeg. It was not as offensively exciting, the game, but Carolina was really the best version of itself defensively, apart from a couple of mistakes here and there. But they really did not allow Winnipeg a lot at all. Certainly not in the first 2 periods. Third period, Winnipeg played well, and then Brandon Bussey played well. We're going to talk a little bit about goaltending here in a second. So 4 games on the road in this trip, starting on Monday, ending on Sunday. So 4 games in 7 days. And remember, the last game is an afternoon game. And I don't think there's any other way to look at the road trip without being, man, that's good. I mean, was it an A+? No, because you left 3 points on the board. But to get 5 out of 8 points, to be dealing with a flu bug, to be dealing with still the injuries, I mean, I just think is very, very good. So if you're looking at this the way I would look at it, which is bigger picture, 2-1-1, that's a good, solid road trip, and you love the way the team is playing. Now, individually speaking, you could say today was disappointing because there were plays to be made that Carolina didn't make. Because the first goal, the power play is Alexander Nikishin in the box for delay of game puck over glass. The worst part about that is that he was not pressured. He just deposited the puck over the glass. Now, that is not in any way it has nothing to do with the healthy extra yesterday, completely unrelated. But, I mean, it's just a mistake that you make today that ultimately cost you a goal. And I think if we were going to say anything about the goal where Alex Tuch, just tapped it in backdoor, it was the power play, is that Keandre Miller probably played that situation poorly. Where leave Freddie with the shooter. Don't try to be both. Don't try to take away both the shooter and the pass. Make sure the pass can't get through, and then just leave Andersen with the shooter. But Miller tried to do both and ultimately did neither, and the pass to the back door gave Andersen no chance to stop it. That's the first goal. The second goal, the Jack Quinn, chip in front of the net, that's a play to me, a shot that should never happen. Carolina gave up the 2-on-1 in that situation, and I believe it was Alex Tuch that was denied. I think that was one of the highlights. Andersen makes a great save on the 2-on-1. And Carolina had a couple of opportunities to get the puck out of the zone and didn't. And then Buffalo recycles, and Buffalo is, they're averaging more than 3 goals a game. They're good. And they've been scoring of late. They had 9 against Chicago on Friday. And now they have won 4 out of 5, but in the 3 previous wins, they scored 19 goals in the 3 games that they won, and now 23 goals in their last 4 wins. And they can score. They've got a lot of talent offensively. And giving them another chance on that possession was always going to be a situation where you're asking to get beat, and that's what happened there. So the Quinn goal that makes it 2-1 could have been avoided if the puck just gets out. The third goal at the end of the period, which was a little bit of a backbreaker, not a game ender, but it certainly felt like the task was more daunting, especially when you knew that Carolina was not on top of their game in two periods. If Carolina was looking like they did in Minnesota, or even against Edmonton, right, in that game too, and they were down 2, you would have gone, all right, well, we can still do this. To the point where I felt like they could flip a switch and get back to their game, especially against the Sabres, who do allow a lot of goals. But they weren't able to do that today. It just wasn't there. But that goal, as we're going to explain right here, this is where you could tell that not all of your guys were really locked in today. And while I thought Sebastian Aho played a really good third period, I don't think he played a good first and second period. There was a little bit of frustration, I thought, for him today. He got picked up 2 penalties. So he was in the penalty box twice. He won his faceoffs. He did a good job in the faceoff circle. But he's defending Beck Mallenstein, or Mallenstein, whatever his name is, on the goal that makes it 3-1, which felt daggerish, whether it was or not. And Aho has the opportunity to just take the body and eliminate the play. If he plays right through the chest of Mallenstein, the scoring chance doesn't materialize. But it looked like he was trying to just swipe and take the puck, misses the puck, misses the body, and Mallenstein is in, and it's 3-1. So to me, that's a Sebastian Aho issue. But it was an indication of what Carolina was today. Just a little off. The coverage on the Jack Quinn goal that made it 2-1 was just a little off, right? Just a little, Sean Walker's just behind the play. Miller's here, whoever was the other defenseman. Carolina just a little off. And when a team's playing well like Buffalo was today, just being a little off is enough. I thought Freddie Andersen played well today. There was nothing that, there were no bad goals. We've talked about this before. Just because you don't allow bad goals doesn't mean you played well. We've already been over this. Sometimes the goals are going to get scored anyway, and you can still play them poorly. But I don't think that was the case with Andersen today. I thought Freddie looked pretty good today. I know, 3 goals, 21 shots on him. So the save percentage, it's not great. But this is why we have eyes, because we can watch, and our eyes would tell us that, Freddie was good today. So maybe we're grading on a curve. Maybe it's just baby steps. But my level of confidence in Andersen's return to being a plus goaltender, not a minus goaltender. In my opinion, my faith in Andersen is justified. That I do think he'll come back and be good. Now, will he be great? No clue. But I do think he will come back to the point where he's good. And I think, to me, today was a very good sign. But it's only going to matter if he does it again, whenever his next start is. Real quick on that, Kochetkov is going to get checked out tomorrow at home, and meaning Raleigh, not meaning Russia. And they'll see if he's available on Wednesday. We've talked about this before. For whatever reason, he has owned the Rangers and Igor Shesterkin. Owned them. Every one of his starts against the Rangers has come against Shesterkin. I believe, is he 6-2 or so? I think he's 6-2 against Shesterkin now. Every one of his starts has come against the Rangers, and we've already talked about We talked about that. We talked about the fact that he's great against Russian goalies. Well, it'll be Igor Shesterkin on Wednesday. I'm sure of it. And you'd really want Kochetkov to play in that game. With that said, Brandon Bussi played very well on Friday. And if they ultimately have to go to Bussi, maybe not against the Rangers, but if Kochetkov's going to be out, then they can simply rotate Freddie and Bussi until Kochetkov is ready to go. And then they have the same set of problems. But this is, by the way, why you have Brandon Bussi around, is so he is available. And again, I thought he played really, really well. The third period in Winnipeg was very, very good. What I liked is that I just thought it was, again, wasn't spectacular because Carolina doesn't need that. They just need you to make the saves you're supposed to make. Like, not allow the bad goal. If Carolina doesn't give up any bad goals, they're going to be in great shape for a long, long time this season. So Andersen played well. I don't understand, throughout my timeline, people are like, Andersen's no good. I'm like, played well today. Again, we have eyes. Your eyes should tell you that Freddie Andersen played very well today, because I think he did. And I'm not here as an apologist for Andersen. I've been critical of him like I've been critical of any of Carolina's goaltenders or players. Do the Hurricanes miss Jordan Staal? Well, we know the answer to that. The answer to that is yes, they miss Jordan Staal. He's your number one faceoff guy. He's your number one shutdown center, right? He's your tied for third in goals scored. Excuse you? Yep. Believe it or not, today, and the Hurricanes will always miss Jordan Staal's defense and leadership. Not sure they didn't miss the captain's offense today. Buffalo, another one of those teams that Staal has scored a bunch on. I think it's 15 goals and 35 points in 53 games. I mean, we're talking about like almost a 25 goal season pace against the Sabres. We know how good he is. He's been historically against the Jets, and he cashed in that. But when you don't have Staal, look what it does to your line. Everything was jumbled today. And maybe that speaks to why Carolina, even though when they had the puck, sometimes looked dangerous, but just could never figure out how to make it all work and create the scoring chances. Ultimately, they opened the game with Stankoven between Martinook and Carrier. Almost forgot the other part of that line. Stankoven took the draw. He was playing in between. Like, you couldn't have a bigger contrast. Jordan Staal to Logan Stankoven, which was, to me, very funny. But the drop-off defensively, because that's not Stankoven's game. His game is forechecking. His game is, puck possession, but like going to get it back, not just to keep it. And I mean, it's a tough ask to say to Logan, hey, you go do what Jordan Staal does. And I thought, it didn't last very long that way. I think there were a couple of shifts with Stankoven, Carrier, and Martinook, but Mark Jankowski assumed that role, and Mark Jankowski was pretty good in it. I mean, he's not Jordan Staal, but he won a bunch of his faceoffs today. You have to deal with that assignment. Of course, on the road, you don't have as much choice. Well, you don't have any choice. You don't choose the matchup. The home team does. So advantage to Winnipeg, to Lindy Ruff and Buffalo for that. But without Jordan Staal, yes, your defense suffers, and you gave up another power play goal. We talked about this a couple of podcasts ago. I have two things that I'm concerned about. legitimately concerned about. The goaltending, which Andersen, to me, went pretty long way, not towards answering those questions, but just to kind of give us some hope that he is coming back in terms of coming back to be that guy. He's playing right now, but he's not back, if you understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's good to see Andersen play well. But they miss Staal. They miss his opportunism. They miss his puck possession, what those possessions do to the other team, how it wears them down. They didn't have that today. And could they have still won the game? Yes. You're not going to lose every game Jordan Staal doesn't play. They're winning a lot of games without Jacob Slavin. So, but that was a noticeable absence on the offensive end, a place where you would not expect Jordan Staal being absent to matter. Are we all over the Alexander Nikishin healthy scratch issue? It was okay today. Wasn't great today. Again, no Hurricane was great today. It amazed me how much yesterday was still a conversation about Nikishin being healthy scratched on Friday night when it was not a big deal at all. I asked the head coach about it in our pregame interview when he goes, yeah, he looked tired. He just wasn't, the last game wasn't as good. And we just felt he needed a break. Played a lot of hockey. He's not used to playing this many times in a week. So it was ultimately good for everybody. And except, I guess, Mike Riley, who turned the puck over for a goal. Now, whether or not it worked or not will remain to be seen. We're not judging it based on one game after the healthy extra. But, and he wasn't great today. But again, he had company among players who wasn't great today. There were some decent moments, and he's got to get better on the defensive end of the puck. And I think the Rod and Tim Gleason will have a little bit of a dilemma because you want him to be aggressive, but when muscle memory takes over and is not as much danger you're dealing with in the KHL, that fine line between being aggressive and too aggressive, that gets blurred awfully fast. So Nikishin got back in. He was okay today. It wasn't. I don't think he was the worst Carolina defenseman. I don't think Carolina was terrible defensively. I mean, Buffalo scored 9 goals on Friday night. They scored 3 today. So, and again, there were avoidable goals for varying reasons. Now, final thing here, and then we'll jump out. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. You might have heard the Elliott Friedman bit from Hockey Night in Canada. Might have seen it online. You certainly read about it. It was brought to my attention this morning. I had not seen it. That during the 8-game stretch at the beginning of the season where Andrei Svechnikov was pointless. Now, there might be a pun there or not. I'm not sure. They made it known. This is Elliott Friedman's reporting. They made it known, meaning the player and his agent, that while they weren't seeking a trade, if the Hurricanes wanted to move Andrei, they would not be opposed to it. We could sit here all day because you and I are not privy to that information. And how Elliott gets it, I don't know, but it's really why he's the best at it. So let's just go on face value for a second. That Andrei let them know, with either Andrei or his agent, more than likely his agent, let the team know that, hey, if you want to move me, I'm okay with it. Because first 2 games of the season, he's playing with Stankoven and Blake. Ehlers was playing with Aho and Jarvis. The Svechnikov, Stankov, and Blake thing didn't work. I don't know why. Anybody can play with Jackson Blake and Logan Stankov, and anybody can play with those two. Nick Ehlers has been brilliant since uniting with those two guys. But once Svechnikov was taken off that line, he was dropped down to the bottom of the lineup with Jesperi Kotkaniemi and wasn't Taylor Hall, because Taylor Hall went up, and Eric Robinson. Remember, Taylor Hall spent a good chunk of the first 10 or so games playing in Carolina's top six. And my opinion is you can do that for 2 games, but you can't do it for 2 weeks. You can't do it for 3 weeks. And that was Carolina's problem, is that they weren't getting really anything out of 2 spots in their lineup that are viable, that are like necessary. Supplemental offense from your fourth line. And we know how good Carolina's fourth line is, whether it's Jankowski or Kotkaniemi in the middle, with Eric Robinson and Taylor Hall right now, and that's the way it should be for the foreseeable future. I mean, that is an excellent, excellent fourth line, and that's a line that should score. Not can score, should score. So it's not like Svech was dropped down to a grind line. He was dropped to see if the lesser matchup, to see if that could help ignite Andrei's offense. That didn't work. So what was the next move for the head coach? You pair him with Staal and Martinook. And Carrier plays the fourth line. Then, of course, Carrier and Eric Robinson both got hurt, and they were out for a little bit. Actually missed the exact same number of games. So Andrei was playing initially on a fourth line. And then when that line blew up because of injury, Rod Brindamore said, that's it. Last straw here, you're going with Jordan and Marty. From that point on, Andrei's been really an excellent player. 12 points in 13 games, plus 5 before today. So he didn't get anything today, I don't believe. So, like, it worked. It got him going. Now, the report, I'm sure, is true. I have no problem. Elliott Friedman is the best in the business when it comes to breaking news and when it comes to relationships. So I have no doubts that the report is true, that it was made clear to the Hurricanes hierarchy that if you wanted to move, Andrei wasn't going to stand in the way of it. I will say this, especially if you go back and you look at the end of last season, I would be stunned if there were not conversations had between the Hurricanes and another organization about acquiring Svechnikov. I'm sure that there were, at least on the surface, cursory conversations about that. I mean, you can get mad about it all you want, but this organization is never going to not try and get better. I heard a conversation on, I think it was on Sirius, with Eric Tulsky. They asked him about, well, you're not going to go, you tried big game hunting, it didn't work, you're not going to do that again. He goes, nah, we're going to try everything we can to make the team better. You know, I don't know what's available this year. We'll find out as we get closer and closer, probably after Thanksgiving, before, as we get into Christmas, when people are bored and there are more rumors to be read. I think that's when we'll start hearing that Carolina is available, is interested in this player or whatever. We know what they need. They need a center. They need another center. They need some size. And if this Freddie's going to play the rest of the year, I think goaltending will be fine. But if the next start we're going to get the Freddie that played in Minnesota, or we're going to get the Freddie that played, where was it? Wherever. The last time he played, which was not great. If we're going to get that Freddie, then, the Hurricanes might have to think about bringing in another goalie, finding another one. You don't want to do that because, frankly, there are no good ones legitimately available. Goaltending's down across the board in the NHL. Save percentage, which I believe last year was at .901 as a league, is now down at .891. And I think going into today, the Hurricanes were between 889 and 890. Anyway, my overall point is that I'm not in any way, shape, or form surprised that Andrei was frustrated. I'm not even surprised that he was frustrated to the point of letting the organization know that he wouldn't be opposed to a move. And I know how some people take that. But Andrei is an emotional player, and I'm sure he was frustrated. He always puts on a brave face. He's never down. Even when he screws up, he screws up with a smile. So there was no way of really knowing what was going on in Andrei's head until this news came out. But I don't think the organization is in any way interested in trading him. There's many of you on social media that is more interested in trading Andrei Svechnikov. And I will be completely honest here. I have thought that it might be something that they should look at, depending on what the return is. Like if the Hurricanes were able to get, this is no offense, this is no shade on Andrei or anybody. If they were able to secure a legitimate, right-sided, bona fide top 2 NHL center. I'll just use Tage Thompson as an example only because Hurricanes just played him. But if you could get Tage Thompson in a package or for a package that includes Svechnikov in it, I would think the Hurricanes would have to consider that. No? And Thompson might not even be the ideal fit. So, in terms of what Carolina needs. So, I'm not put off by Andrei, being frustrated. I actually like the fact that he cares to the point where that frustration sets in. That he's not just, oh well about it. Even though you could be oh well about it because you knew things were going to change. And obviously the last 13 games, 14 games where he's got 12 points, things have changed. Could have used them on the score sheet tonight, but you're not going to be Connor McDavid every night. You're just not. So not in any way surprised that this happened, B, that the news came out because it always comes out. And also, we've got Andrei locked and loaded, and they're not going to trade him unless they get a massive haul in return to the point where it would have to be we can't not do that. I'll draw an example. Panthers didn't want to trade Brian Burns 3 years ago. And whatever team it was offered 2 1s and a 2. I mean, that's still stunning to me. And the Panthers turned it down. That's malpractice. So when you have an asset like Andrei, and he's not performing to his standards, which he has not been, if somebody came to you and offered you everything you wanted to part with Andrei, you'd part with Andrei. but I'd say that about just about anybody on the roster. I kid you not. So, again, not bugged at all by Andrei Svechnikov and the potential of a trade at all. Do I think the organization is going to trade him? Not a chance. Because they're not going to get in return for Svechnikov what they would need to justify trading him. So the answer is not a chance. So, all right, people. We'll do this again on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. I am Adam Gold. This has been the Canes Corner podcast brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place, whatever I just said, Durham. No place like it. Sam Meehan and his crew do a great job. You should check them out for all of your exterior home improvement needs. Until Wednesday, when the Hurricanes take on the Rangers, start of a 7-game road trip, or rather homestand. I'd rather be on the road 7 straight games, than be at home for 7 straight games. Call me crazy, but I wouldn't. I hope they get off to a good start. Be important to beat the Rangers on Wednesday. All right? We'll see everybody from Lenovo Center next time. By the way, share, like, subscribe, download whatever you got to do to the podcast. Tell your friends, spread the word. Let's create a bigger and better and brighter Caniac community here on the Canes Corner podcast. I'm Adam. See you next time.